Hi, I'm Julie Jewell, and you're watching Spotlight on Sparks. There's so much going on here at the City of Sparks, and my first guest is Amber Sosa. She's our transportation manager, and we recently at a council meeting were talking about street rehabilitation, and I thought it might make just a really good topic to let people know why we have a street rehabilitation program and really what that is.
Thanks, Julie. The City of Sparks does allocate budget resources every year to rehabilitating our neighborhood streets. We do this through evaluating our street conditions, called a Pavement Condition Index. You'll hear it be called a PCI. And that's a scale to rate our streets from 0 being the worst to 100 being the best. And it kind of shows us where we should be putting our money to rehabilitating our streets.
Because I know a lot of people will call and they'll say, hey, I have a pothole or I've got some problems on my street. When will my street be up for rehab? And how do we determine that?
Sure, again, it's looking at that PCI. It's looking at what streets are good to group together in neighborhoods to try to get the best bang for our buck. Actually, our PCIs of all of our streets are on our website. So if you're interested in your own street, you can go look at it, go to our website and go under engineering traffic, and you should be able to see a map to see exactly where your street is starting to fall.
That's great. So we basically just put aside money, and then each year kind of decide based on that PCI which streets are going to be rehabbed. And I thought at our last meeting too, there was a sewer project that was needed to be done as well, and you kind of combined them with, to save money and resources. Is that kind of how we do things?
Absolutely. We definitely start with that PCI. That number kind of shows us there could be an issue. We do go out and drive every one of our streets to see whether that's a true representation of what's out there. And we do work with our utility department as well as other agencies to see what is the best way to marry all these together.
And what kind of things do you do in the neighborhood for the program with streets and gutters and such?
Sure, we do a complete rehabilitation of the street section itself, but we also look at any curb and gutter, sidewalk, or driveways that could be deteriorated, and we replace those at the same time.
Thank you, Amber. Is there anything I may have missed that you want to let people know about?
I would just encourage people, if they have a question about their street or a concern that they would like to bring to our attention, to call our main line at 353-5555.
And then there's also the website too that they can get on, and again, that's under engineering and then traffic. So thank you, Amber, very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Julie.
My next guest is Chief Pete Krall. And Chief, we have some pretty exciting news about some money that we were awarded. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I'd be happy to, Julie. Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
The award that we've received is what's called a Justice Assistance Grant, or a JAG grant, kind of in the common terminology. And basically, it's in the amount of a little over $31,000, and we can use that money for a number of different purposes, to include training, personnel costs, things of that nature that help us do what we do better.
So how do we get this money? How do they award it to us?
The way it's awarded is that in this particular case, the City of Reno is the main grantee. We are a sub-grantee, meaning we partner with Reno and Washoe County in this grant, and we are allotted a certain amount of money based upon how the grant is divided.
How will we be using this money? I know you said some training and some equipment and things.
Yeah, we'll be using the money in three ways with this. Number one, we'll be purchasing new rifles for our SWAT team to train our folks to the level that they need to be trained to and to be proficient. They do a lot of practice shooting, and like any tool, rifles can wear out and they need to be replaced from time to time. The second part of that is we're going to buy some gear which allows us to ramp up our internal training efforts, and that gear is called simunitions gear. And basically what it is a system of rifles and other things that are not actual rifles. Basically they're kind of a plastic projectile firing weapon, but we use them in training so that we can train and prepare for things like active shooter events and things of that nature. The third part of this grant is a little bit of money that we use for overtime for our personnel. And what our personnel were doing is teaching a new crime accounting system called NIBRS, or the National Incident-Based Reporting System. Formerly, and for probably 40 years, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has mandated collection of data through what's called UCR, or Uniform Crime Reports. Now, what happens with uniform crime reports is only the most serious crime in any event is tallied. So in other words, if you have a robbery and within that you have a theft and you have some other things, only the robbery is counted. Under NIBRS, all of the crimes that are committed within a particular event are tallied. And the reason that that's important is it gives us a more accurate viewpoint and account, really, of what occurs in each crime report that we take. Now, what will appear to people is that we've had a geometric increase in crime, which isn't necessarily accurate. And it's important that folks understand that, because the sheer appearance of the numbers will be somewhat startling for the first couple of years, but it really is a more accurate accounting of the things that occur on a daily basis.
So some of the things that may have been already occurring, we're just telling them different, so it might show differently on those reports.
That's exactly it.
Right. So it sounds like this money is just much needed and will go towards some really valuable training and equipment.
It very much is. Well, you know, in the things that we face in today's world, we have to prepare for them and train for them as best we can, and these funds certainly will help us do that.
And so when we apply for grants like this, do we have to know where we're going to be spending the money in order to get the money?
We do. It's actually a two-part process even within our approach to the council with it. The first step is to approach the council and receive permission to apply for the grant. When that permission is granted, we then apply for the actual grant itself. We go through the process associated with that, which is run through the federal government. And then if we are awarded the grant, then we come back to council and ask basically for permission to spend the funds that we've been allocated.
Great. Well, it sounds like you have some much needed use for that money.
We do. We're very excited. We're looking very forward to it.
I want to switch gears a little bit because there's another topic that we recently discussed at our redevelopment meeting about some ballards that are going to be going in on Victorian Square, and they're going to be installing them. How important are those for the safety of downtown Victorian Square during events and things like that?
They're tremendously important. We have, over the years, as unfortunately the world has changed a little bit and threats of different natures have evolved, we have evaluated our safety systems and the things that we have in place. We've determined that there's a higher need for structures and facilities of this type, and we believe it will keep all of our visitors and vendors and all the folks that participate in our special events far more safe than what we used to have when I started, which was basically plastic barricades and things of that sort.
And what exactly are these?
Well, so there's really two kinds. The first one is what's called an in-ground pop-up barricade. And basically those are things that are built into the ground and secured so that they can simply, we release a mechanism and they pop up and provide a certain amount of safety against vehicles that may try to get into the event for one reason or the other. The second kind are what are traditionally called bollards. So basically they're a pole that in some cases is permanently fixed into the ground. In some cases they can be lifted in and lifted out, removed to meet different configurations that we have for our special events. Again, to provide safety against a vehicle trying to get into the event.
Right, so of course safety is what's most important to all law enforcement and City of Sparks too. So.
It is. Yeah, we constantly strive to reevaluate what we do and to make it a safer event all the time. It isn't something that we take for granted, and we work very hard at making sure that our citizens and our visitors can have a good time at our events.
Great. Well, thank you. And we know event season isn't for a little bit, but we're excited about it coming up again, starting in spring and summer. So
we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chief. My next guest is Tracy Domingues, and Tracy, thank you for being here again. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's so nice. And we recently had our Sparks Hometown Christmas Parade in December, and we have a whole bunch of people and volunteers that help us out with that. So at a recent council meeting, you really talked about that and wanted to thank them.
Yes, it's really important to us for this community event to acknowledge everybody that makes it happen. And our main sponsors are the Nugget Casino Resort, Silver Wing Development, and Rail City Casino and Baldini's. They're our main sponsors that help us out with this event.
Great, and I know Hot August Nights does a lot too. What kind of things do they do?
Hot August Nights provides all the volunteers that we need to help organize the chaos that can occur in our staging area of the parade. So that's getting everyone in order, making sure they're in the right spot before they hit the parade route. So lots of employees. We definitely could never do it without Hot August Nights.
And then I know too, this year was a little bit different where we were able to use some cars from different dealerships to drive some of our dignitaries around, and I know we really wanted to thank them as well.
Yes, absolutely. This year was a little challenge. We didn't have floats available to us this year, so we had a lot of interest from our dignitaries in the state. So we had Dolan and Champion Chevrolet come forward with about 24 cars total for us to use during the parade, and it was amazing.
And I was so thankful to them too, because I was the one who reached out to them, and they just graciously just said absolutely, and it was actually really fun. We took a busload of city employees over to the dealerships and we drove cars back, so it was some good camaraderie. And speaking of that, we had a lot of city staff too that helped out a lot too.
We did. We had to have a driver for every car, so we had probably 25 to 30 staff help us out for the event. And for many of them, it was the first time either being a part of or seeing the event, and it was great. They all looked like they had a good time, and we obviously couldn't have done it without them. So the whole city team and effort is greatly appreciated.
We had other in-kind donators too, so can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. Grimaldi's Pizzeria, they donated I believe cannolis for our tree lighting, and that's given out free to everybody, along with hot chocolate. And then Doughboys Donuts helped. They provided donuts for us the morning of the parade, which is a very busy morning.
Yes, yes.
And I believe your staff also assisted in getting coffee to go with those donuts. So
and of course I had to have a donut too, because they're really good. So I know we also want to talk about Boys and Girls Club and some other sponsors and volunteers too.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Absolutely. Livingstone's Church comes forward with volunteers. They help us out with the tree lighting the night before. And then Boys and Girls Club always do the visit with Santa. So they get the toys donated that Santa can give away, and they help decorate Santa's area, and they provide all the volunteers to make that happen. And then I just can't thank them enough, honestly. It's just an amazing community event with community partners.
And that's what I loved about it too, it was such a community event, and people just enjoy it, and everybody that's in the parade loves it. So definitely looking forward to this year's parade too already. Anything else you want to say about the sponsors or anything like that?
Just a huge thank you. We can't do it without them, and for staff for obviously stepping up, and also building the city council float.
Oh, right.
Was built by our public works staff, so that was amazing.
It looked beautiful too, so I'm sure everybody really appreciated that. Well, thank you, Tracy. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again on our next edition of Spotlight on Sparks.